Hey gaming fans, so today's another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile, and this one is Ice Barriers. Well, it's kind of, I kind of used the Ice Barrier structure decks and decided to build my own deck out of it, using mostly cards from, say, other structure decks. So it's a fairly easy deck to build, and you know, just really budget friendly. So anyways, let's get to the deck, and I'll explain the choices. So this is first one here. I put in 2 of the Hexa Spirit of the Ice Barrier. When you control another Ice Barrier monster, monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack and defense. I mean, that's okay. During your main phase, you could send 1 level 3 or lower Ice Barrier monster from your deck to your graveyard, and if you do, this card's level becomes the same level as that monster, so you can fix his level up, which is pretty cool too. And of course, he's a tuner, so he's a level 1, and this deck's all about, you know, bringing out big synchro monsters. For the other one, I used 2 Suijin of the Ice Barrier. This is a non-tuner, but when you tribute this card, you could special summon a level 5 or higher Ice Barrier monster from your hand. So that's really good because there are some high-level Ice Barrier monsters in this deck. So it's really cool that you can get this guy out to bring them into the field really fast. And then if this card's in your graveyard, except the turn it was sent there, you can target 1 level 3 or higher water monster you control, reduce its level by exactly 2, and if you do, special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field, and you can only use it once per turn. So that's another cool effect there. It's always great to have monsters that can reborn themselves, especially if you want to bring out synchro monsters. And I'm playing 2 of the Prior of the Ice Barrier. I believe in my first build, my first Ice Barrier deck, I think I was using 3 of them. Maybe I wasn't. But this is a cool guy too. He's got a weird effect. The first effect, if you control an Ice Barrier monster, you could special summon this card from your hand. But then you cannot special summon a level 5 or higher monster. So it's kind of a weird effect. Like, why would you special summon him and then not be able to use his effect? Which is... you can special summon any level 5, or sorry, you can tribute this card, then target 1 Ice Barrier monster in your graveyard, except Prior, and special summon it to the field. So basically, he could reborn any of your Ice Barrier monsters, and you'd probably want to bring back the big guys, so you probably won't use his first effect very often. So just normal summon him, and then you could tribute him to special summon any Ice Barrier from your graveyard. So we're playing 1 Chiromancer of the Ice Barrier. He's another tuner. He's an Aqua tuner, and that comes in handy for one of my synchros. And well, you control another Ice Barrier monsters. Level 4 or higher monsters cannot declare an attack. So a lot of Ice Barriers use their effects based on the number of other Ice Barriers on the field. So you want to get a lot of them out. Then Defender of the Ice Barrier, this is another tuner, Aqua tuner. Well, you control another Ice Barrier monster. Monsters your opponent control cannot declare an attack if their attack is greater than or equal to this card's defense. So this guy's got 1600 defense, so that's pretty good too. I mean, you can slow your opponent down. Then we're playing 3 Speaker of the Ice Barriers. Again, these are the ones that are in the structure deck. So that's another interesting monster. While you control another Ice Barrier monster, defense position monsters your opponent controls cannot change their battle position. I thought that was kind of neat. I almost added in some cards that would make your opponent's monsters go into defense mode, but I mean, it's not going to do anything against Link monsters, so it's kind of, you know, hit and miss. You could only use one of the following effects once per turn. If you control an Ice Barrier monster, you could special summon this card from your hand. And if you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon 1 Ice Barrier token, level 1, 0 attack, 0 defense. So this gives you a whole bunch of effects. Basically, gets you another body on the field. Really cool card. Then I put in 1 Strategist of the Ice Barrier. I figure 1 should be enough. This guy is a level 4. And once per turn, you can send 1 Ice Barrier monster from your hand to the graveyard to draw 1 card. So there is some cards like, you know, that activate in the graveyard. So you could pitch it into the graveyard and then draw your cards. So that's pretty cool. And I figured there's ways to search them out, so why put more than 1? And of course, we're playing 3 of the Revealer of the Ice Barrier. Probably the best card in the deck. This one is, well, you control another Ice Barrier monster your opponent cannot tribute summon, which is okay, I guess, if you're going up against a Monarch deck. You could only use each of the following effects once per turn. You could discard one card to special summon one Ice Barrier tuner from your deck. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except water monsters. So this comes with that little bit of a drawback. So I tried to fit as many water monsters as I could into my extra deck to make sure I could always pull something out. And if you would discard to send cards from your hand to the graveyard to activate an Ice Barrier monster's effect, you could banish this card from your graveyard instead of one of those cards. Really cool concept. I like that idea of being able to use this card in the graveyard as a discard fodder for one of your Ice Barrier monsters. Really cool. And also 1700 attack, you know, so it's pretty good. So now for some tribute monsters, we got 2 General Wayne of the Ice Barrier. Now this is almost like a Cyber Dragon, so spells and traps sent from the field to your opponent's graveyard are banished instead. I'm not sure if that's really that good of an effect or not. You can only use the effect of General Wayne of the Ice Barrier once per turn. If your opponent controls a monster and you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. So unlike Cyber Dragon where you have to have no monsters on the field, this one, if you have an Ice Barrier, you can special summon him. And he's a level 5, so good for your synchro summoning. And you can special summon, if this card is normal or special summon, you could add one Ice Barrier spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Another good effect right there, so he kind of replaces himself. Then I'm playing 1 General Ryo of the Ice Barrier. When your opponent's monster effect activated on the field resolves, they must discard 1 card or the effect is negated. So that's pretty good. I mean, it can be really disruptive if your opponent's running out of cards in their hand. They're not going to be able to pull off their monster effects. And he's got 2300 defense, so pretty stable card. Then we're playing 1 Medium of the Ice Barrier. If your opponent controls 4 or more cards than you do, you can special summon this card from your hand. Your opponent can only activate 1 spell or trap once per turn. So this would be a perfect going second card. So if your opponent pulls out a whole bunch of stuff onto the field, free special summon right there. And level 7. Then we have 1 General Gantella of the Ice Barrier. Once per turn during the end phase. Unfortunately, it's during the end phase. You could target 1 Ice Barrier monster in your graveyard, except him, and special summon it. So that's really cool. And he's 2700 attack, so not an easy one to get over. And then for the last monster, we got 1 General Grunard of the Ice Barrier. During your main phase, you can normal summon 1 Ice Barrier monster in addition to your normal summoner set. So these are great because they're big monsters, and you can pull them out with that effect of that earlier guy there that allows you to summon a monster, a big level 5 or higher monster from your hand. So easy to get these guys out onto the field. So for the spells, I put in 1 Monster Reborn, just because it's a great card to always revive. 2 Dark Ruler No More. So this card, I believe this was in the Charmer structure deck, so easy card to get your hands on now. You negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls till the end of this turn. Also, for the rest of this turn, after it resolves, your opponent takes no damage. Neither player can activate monster effects in response to this card. So this is really just to shut down any of your opponent's setup. Say they start off and they set up some pretty nasty monsters. This will just shut them down. And we got our Searcher, Medallion of the Ice Barrier. Great card. Add 1 Ice Barrier monster from your deck to your hand. So that's really cool. So pretty much any monster you need at that time, that's what you're going to grab. 3 of the Freezing Chains of the Icebergs. Chains of the Ice Barrier. Great card too. This is when this card's activated, you could target 1 level 4 or lower Ice Barrier monster in your graveyard and special summon it. While you control 3 or more Ice Barrier monsters you control are unaffected by your opponent's effects of monsters that are special summoned from the extra deck. And you can only activate 1 of these cards per turn. So really cool card. Allows you to not only just bring back an Ice Barrier monster, but it also protects your Ice Barrier monsters from your opponent's monsters. And then we got 3 of the Winds of the Ice Barrier. Winds over the Ice Barrier. Again, more cards from the structure deck. Tribute any number of Ice Barrier monsters, special summon from your deck that many level 4 or lower Ice Barrier monsters with different names of each other. During your main phase, except the turn that this is sent to the graveyard, you could banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 of your Ice Barrier monsters that is banished, or in the graveyard and add it to your hand. So this is cool because you get 2 uses out of it. You can tribute a monster to bring out a monster. So you can tribute one of those monsters that has an effect in the graveyard. Plus, on your next turn, you can actually banish this to add a card back to your hand. So again, good for card advantage. Then for traps, I put 3 Lost Wind. Again, this is from one of the structure decks. I think it was the Sacred Beasts one, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember right now, or maybe the dinosaur one. It was in one of the structure decks. This is just a good card. Target face up, special summon monster on the field, negate its effects. Also, its original attack is half. So that's really good that if in case your opponent plays something that's going to ruin your day, you can negate it. And then if you got a big, strong Ice Barrier monster over on your side of the field, you're going to half their attack, and then they won't be able to attack over your monster. And then this has an extra effect. If a monster is special summoned from your opponent's extra deck, well, this card is in your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can set this card back to the field, but then banish it. So again, more resources from one card. Then I threw in the 3 Solemn Strikes, because I'm not playing any hand traps in this deck, so I figured, because this is very monster heavy anyways, I just figured let's play Solemn Strike. This will just negate a special summon monster or monster effect for 1500 life points. And then the last one is also out of the structure deck, which is Terror of the Trishula. Apply the effects in sequence depending on the number of Ice Barrier Synchro monsters you control. So with this deck, you're going to be constantly Synchro summoning anyways. So if you have 1+, banish 1 card from your opponent controls. If you have 2, banish 1 card from your opponent's graveyard. And if you have 3, banish 1 random card from your opponent's hand. So it kind of gives you the effects of Trishula, the Ice Barrier. Then, when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets an Ice Barrier Synchro monster you control, you can banish this card from your graveyard and negate that effect. So this gives you a secondary effect. So really cool. So that's the main deck. Let's look at the extra deck. So the extra deck, I really just kind of threw together what I had. If you have better ice or water monsters, have at it. But so I found this one, Tatsunoko, pretty neat. It's a level 3. One tuner and 1 non-tuner monster. If a synchro summon this synchro summon monster would be used as a synchro material, add 1 monster or use 1 monster from your hand as the other material, and this is unaffected by monster effects. So I just thought it was kind of neat. It's you could pull it out. It's 3, so you have the level 1 and you have the level 2 in there. So that can be kind of a neat trick. Of course, in the structure deck, you get Bronic. This is a great card. You get to discard any number of cards to the graveyard, then target that same number of cards your opponent controls, return them to the hand. So again, you could use that Ice Barrier that banishes itself instead from the graveyard. We got the Duloran Tiger, King of the Ice Barrier. These are all in the structure decks. I threw in some extra stuff in here, like Black Rose Dragon. So we got the 2 Gungar Dragon of the Ice Barriers. Stardust Dragon I put in there. Like I said, I was just trying to find just some cards that might work in this deck. Unfortunately, Stardust is wind, so you have to be careful with that. Great Dragon, I thought this was interesting. He's a water monster. He's a level 8. He requires an Aqua Tuner, which is what I pointed out earlier. When this card is Synchro Summoned, you could target cards your opponent controls up to the number of water monsters used for the Synchro Summon of this card and destroy them. If this card is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, you could target 1 other water monster in your graveyard and special summon it, but its effects are negated, and you can only use it once per turn. So I thought that was kind of neat. That kind of fits with this deck. It's a level 8, so it shouldn't be too hard to pull out. And of course, Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, the card you're going to want to always pull out. And then if this card is Synchro Summoned, you can banish up to 1 card from your opponent's hand, field, and graveyard. So it's a really cool card. And then there's Trishula Zero Dragon of the Ice Barrier. This is also with the structure deck. So when this card is Synchro Summoned, you could banish up to 3 cards your opponent controls. If this Synchro Summon card is in its owner's control is destroyed by your opponent's card, you can special summon 1 Trishula Dragon of the Ice Barrier from your extra deck or graveyard, and its attack becomes 3,300. Then have the attack of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls also negate their effects. You can only use the effect of Trishula 0 dragon once per turn. So that's really cool. That can actually like really damage your opponent. Now you have to remember though, when you bring back your Trishula, you're not going to get his effect off because this is only when he's synchro summoned, not special summoned. So just keep that in mind. Then I threw in some Xyz monsters like Abyss Dweller because he's water. Number 101 Silent Honor Arc because he's water. I just threw in the other two guys, Cowboy, Master of Blades, because there is 7. You can pull out 7, so Master of Blades is pretty good. I was trying to find my big eye. I have no idea where it is right now. And then I threw in a Borreload Dragon just for fun. But like I said, if you have other water monsters, probably go with those. Anyways, yeah, that's the deck that I decided to put together. Like I said, I tried to keep this budget friendly as possible, and just using stuff out of the structure decks just for, you know, just to make a fun, simple deck. Obviously, it could be a lot more competitive, but this was the one I decided to put together. Anyways, hope you liked the deck. Throw some comments down below. Hope you liked the video. Hope you subscribe. Talk to you later.